Good evening and welcome. Tonight we will be going over the history and geography of Bo in Sierra Leone. The Bo district I actually didn't trace out like normal because it's pretty much like here. There's not much else there other than Bo town here, so I just didn't bother. It also does not have really that many photos on Google Earth, which is such a surprise to me because Bo is a really beautiful, thriving city. It is the second largest city in Sierra Leone, and there really weren't any good photos on Google Earth of this city. I'm so disappointed. So instead of doing our Google Earth portion, we will be getting a visit from none other than Topple, the ASMR elephant, his amazing ears, and his revolutionary trunk brushing. There are wild elephants, African bush elephants, kind of in the southern area down here, so it's totally perfect. Not to mention the name Bo comes from a legend of a hunter who, don't listen to this part, Topple, a hunter who killed an elephant and cut it up and brought the meat to a local village. And the word that he used to say everyone share, everyone take a piece, gets shortened down to Bo. That's the legend, at least. So we'll hear from Topple later in the video. If you've never heard Topple sounds, be sure to stick around because they're wonderful. Like I already said, Bo is sometimes called Bo Town. I've also heard Bo City or Sweet Bo, which that's very nice. And it is a very large commercial center here in Sierra Leone and a very large center for education. There's lots of schools, and the second largest school in Sierra Leone, or university I should say, outside of course, the capital city, Freetown here, which whenever Bo is the second of anything, it's because the first is in Freetown there. There's also a very large diamond industry in the outskirts here, and the main crop grown here is rice. So it's very quaint living outside the city. But yeah, let's talk about the history briefly. Not a terribly long history. I found little bits here and there, but we'll talk about them. Bo is the heartland of the Mende culture, the Mende people, which you may have heard of if you're like me, went through the American education system and you know the story of the Amistad. But if you don't, in 1839, the slave ship Amistad came here with many people from the Mende culture that were kidnapped and placed on the ship. They had already been bought and sold by a plantation owner in Cuba. So the ship set sail for Cuba. One of the captured people, halfway through the Atlantic Ocean, managed to free himself, took over the ship, and demanded that they sail anywhere else. So they sailed to the United States, probably because the crew on the ship were like, oh, the Americans, this was what, 1839? The Americans are going to stand for this. They'll get justice, right? Well, they sailed into, I want to say New York. It was somewhere up in the north. And it became an abolitionist hot topic. It turned into a whole lawsuit. And the captured Mende won, and they were granted their freedom, and they were allowed to sail back to Sierra Leone. Very landmark case, right? In terms of abolition. But that, when you hear the Mende, that's like one of their big legacies, is their victory on the Amistad. The one time that captured people on a slave ship managed to successfully fight back, and they'd get to sail home. Slave ships do have a very close history with Sierra Leone because once the British were gung-ho about abolition, they would have little bases along the coast here where they would scout out for slave ships and they'd capture them. We talked about it a bit. We were talking about Equatorial Guinea down there a few weeks ago. And most of the time, if they managed to capture a ship with captured people on it, they would just send them here to Sierra Leone. So there is a hodgepodge of cultures here, particularly in Bo, which we'll talk a little bit about why in modern days it's a little hodgepodge of cultures as well. Just a moment. But the British were here because it was a protectorate. Bo was actually the capital of the British Protectorate from 1930 until 1961 when Sierra Leone became independent from the British. They made Freetown the capital. Now, another thing that's really associated with Sierra Leone is the very horrible civil war that occurred here throughout the 1990s, a bit into the 2000s. It was a very devastating one, and the Bo district did see a lot of devastation as well, especially toward the beginnings of the war in 92, 93. But once the dust settled from that horrible incident, many people had been displaced here in Sierra Leone, and many just congregated to Bo to restart their lives. So that is why today Bo is a very multicultural city. Many different cultures around Sierra Leone just relocated there to start anew. Sierra Leone made the news again in 2014 with an outbreak of Ebola, kind of all along the West African coast here. The worst of it in Sierra Leone was in Freetown. I think the worst of it overall, besides Liberia, was Freetown. Bo was affected, but obviously not as bad as other parts. There was a sad story of an ambulance driver that was killed by the virus because he had been transporting patients, being a hero, of course, trying to save lives, and they lost theirs, which is very sad. Ebola is a horrendous virus. It absolutely destroys you from the inside out. It is not pretty, but with many medical breakthroughs, it is treatable and curable. Depends how much the virus has progressed in you, but there is a very high chance now that you can receive treatment and you can recover from it, which is amazing because when I was a kid in the 90s, Ebola was a real fear in the United States that could happen here. It almost did at one point, but at this point, actually. And back then there was no cure, no treatment. So it was really terrifying. What was it, Outbreak? That book and movie. It scared everyone here in America. But very good news that Ebola is treatable and curable now, which is great. But I'm blabby because that's pretty much all that I have to say about Bo. That's pretty much all that I found, which I really tried to dig. There's a lot more in the neighboring districts, which is unfortunate because I'd keep thinking I'd find some cool place or cool fact and it was somewhere nearby. Darn. But I think we're coming back to Sierra Leone in a few weeks, so hopefully I will. I think it's in Ponte here. I'm pretty sure that we'll talk more about Sierra Leone very soon. So be sure to subscribe so you won't miss out. We're actually going to another place in Africa next, but not one that you would expect. One of the very teensy tiny countries of Africa. And it's absolutely stunning. Oh, we are doing Google Earth there. I found so many cool things to show you. It's absolutely beautiful. You do not want to miss it. If you want to see the Sahara of the Atlantic, be sure to subscribe so you won't miss out. I'm going to turn things over to Topple now. So with that being said, I hope that you found this video to be relaxing and educational, and I hope that you have a good Good night.